Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, continuing to work their way through fall camp. And look, there's been a lot of positive vibes coming out of this program to start fall camp. It seems like there's just a laundry list of players that have taken that step heading into 2025. And we've talked a lot about those storylines. This episode not going to be as positive. We got to talk about some injuries that have crept up for Florida during fall camp, most notably Dallas Wilson, lower leg injury. Sounds like it's going to be about 3 weeks of recovery time. Most notably, the first conversation is hopefully back by week one. And if he's not back by week one, hopefully back by week three when Florida goes on the road to LSU. I think Florida will just be just fine during the first 2 weeks of the season without Dallas Wilson. You probably want Dallas Wilson back 100% healthy as this team goes on the road to LSU. Many of y'all know how I choose to talk about injuries. Number one, best wishes to Dallas Wilson, a guy that we've talked a ton about over the last couple of months. This kid's going to be a stud for Florida. We all know that. The way I choose to talk about injuries is, hey, who needs to step up? This is an opportunity for a deep wide receiver room to show this staff that they can be difference makers too heading into 2025. That's the conversation that I want to get into the most. Want to talk about some other positive storylines going on for Florida during fall camp as well. Before we get into it, as always, the Florida fans appreciate you guys. And I'm sorry this episode is not going to be as sunshine and rainbows as it seemingly has been over the last couple of weeks. Regardless, the amount of support this fan base has shown the boys has been amazing. I've personally had a blast talking this football team. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it now. I would invite the Florida fans in the comment section to call your shot. With Dallas Wilson sidelined for ideally only around 3 weeks, who do you think the wide receiver is that steps up and it shows the staff that, hey, they're going to be a difference maker too for this offense in 2025? Now, you can't choose J. Mike, and J. Mike sounds like a guy that probably is going to be the wide receiver one on this football team. Trey Wilson's a guy that I know has been dealing with some injuries, but those injuries seem non-significant. I think he'll be okay to start the season in 2025. Outside of those two, because I think those are the three wide receivers that we think are going to be the starting wide receivers, meaning J. Mike, Dallas Wilson, and Eugene Wilson. To the Florida fans that followed this program pretty dang closely, who do you think is the name that steps up in the coming weeks? My pick is pretty simply Aiden Mizell. And I know Aiden Mizell has been battling some injuries of his own during fall camp. Those don't sound very significant. This is an opportunity for Aiden Mizell to show, hey, I got to be a guy that is hard to keep off the football field in 2025. Now, unlike Dallas Wilson, we knew Aiden Mizell needed a year or two to get acclimated to the SEC. Now, Dallas Wilson, when he flipped his commitment to Florida, we just looked at his senior year, caught up and said, hey, that's an SEC wide receiver that was playing high school football the last couple of years. Aiden Mizell, we love what this kid can be at wide receiver. We knew that it was probably going to take a year or two to add the sufficient weight and kind of be an SEC wide receiver from a physical standpoint. I think he's the obvious choice for a couple of different reasons. Number one, his presence vertically down the field. This is a long wide receiver that can absolutely cook. He's one of the fastest football players, not only on this roster, but in the entire SEC. He also happens to be a pretty big and long kid as well. We know DJ Lagway wants to push the football down the field. The whole purpose of grabbing a guy like J. Michael Sturtevant is not only because he was a very good wide receiver, but he was a guy that can win vertically down the field. Said the same thing for a guy like Dallas Wilson. Well, with Dallas Wilson sidelined for the next couple of weeks, this is Aiden Mizell's chance to kind of show he can be a guy that can be a presence for Florida attacking that deeper third as well. Now, here's the thing that I don't think we talk enough about when it comes to Aiden Mizell, and that is what he can do after the catch. Eugene Wilson and Vernell Brown are probably the yards after the catch kind of wide receivers in this offense. Aiden Mizell, sneaky offers that skill set as well for Florida in the wide receiver room. Now, I think this is a guy that ideally going into year three can be a multi-dimensional pass catcher that can provide value not only after the catch, but stretching the field vertically as well. The two most important things for this Florida team in the passing attack is what can we do attacking the deeper third and what can we do after the catch with the football. I think Aiden Mizell can provide value in both of those aspects. Now, another name to keep an eye on is Nashawn Montgomery. In a lot of realities, Nashawn Montgomery is getting a lot more buzz. This is a guy that has generated buzz. It's just getting kind of drowned out by a wide receiver like Dallas Wilson. I think Florida likes all three of these freshmen. They have a couple other freshmen, but these three have been generating the most amount of buzz. Can Nashawn Montgomery maybe crack the two deep over the next couple of weeks? You have a guy like Tank Hawkins who I don't think Tank Hawkins is going to be an every down pass catcher for Florida in 2025, but he's another guy that is the fastest player on this team, certainly can win vertically down the field. It sucks that Dallas Wilson is going to be nursing an injury for the next couple of weeks. My biggest concern is not necessarily replacing Dallas Wilson as much as I want DJ Lagway and Dallas Wilson to get maximum reps together. This is because you look at spring and say DJ Lagway wasn't throwing the football while Dallas Wilson was balling out during spring. And now in fall camp, DJ Lagway is finally throwing the football to his pass catchers. Well, Dallas Wilson's going to be on the shelf. And Florida's got to figure out a way that Dallas Wilson and DJ Lagway can continue to build that chemistry, because when you close your eyes and view Florida as a college football playoff team, that battery between DJ Lagway and Dallas Wilson, that's going to be real for Florida in 2025. You need that to be real for Florida in 2025. I think they got plenty of pass catchers that can really do some damage. And best wishes to Dallas Wilson. I hope we're talking about Dallas Wilson balling out really, really damn soon. Another injury is Trayon Webb. Love this guy. I mean, I loved him out of high school. And not only do I love the football player, but I love the teammate. You talk about what I love about Florida going into 2025 is not only what's on the roster, but what this group showed us at the end of 2024. Like, there's a lot of teams that would have quit. Florida didn't. And I think Trayon Webb might be one of the more well-liked players on this football team. I'm not sure how big his role was going to be for Florida in the 2025 year, with Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson probably taking the lion's share of the carries. But, he got surgery on his hamstring on Monday. Best wishes to Trayon Webb. Here's a positive thing that I feel it continues to fly under the radar for this Florida Gators program, and that is how good this offensive line has the ability to be. The biggest storyline we had for Florida was we know what we're getting from this group. You return 4 starters, 4 starters that were playing dang good football at the end of the 2024 year. The only question we had was, hey, who's going to play right tackle? It sounds like Bryce Lovett has taken that job and absolutely ran with it, which is what you wanted to hear. The buzz that we're getting from this football team is that this offensive line should be one of the better units that you see, not only in the SEC, but arguably in the country. The storyline that made me think of is, how dynamic this rushing attack can be, but more importantly, kind of game script for Florida in 2025, really leaning on that rushing attack at times in these football games. Go back to Florida in 2024. One of the things they struggled with was just staying on the football field on offense. They put up some points because they were able to find a lot of explosive plays, especially as DJ Lagway took over the offense. But they didn't really, they weren't as efficient of an offense as you would like. They didn't stay on the field all that long. They were 99th in time of possession. Now I'm looking at Florida going into 2025 and say, hey, this offensive line continues to generate buzz. Jaden Ball continues to generate buzz. Can this just be a road grading offense at times that can kind of smother opponents? I go back to that Michigan team in 2023 that won a national championship. That was kind of the recipe. Now, Florida has more difference makers on the outside than that Michigan football team did. So I think they have the ability to be a little bit more explosive at times. But I look at how Billy Napier wants to win football games and say, I'm going to run the football, control the time possession, kind of dominate football games. And I'm looking at it and saying, as much as we want to talk about DJ Lagway and J. Mike and Dallas Wilson and Eugene Wilson and say, this team should be able to run the football just about as good as anybody in the country and play really dang good defense behind it. That's a recipe. That's a recipe for consistency. Is probably the thing that I would say most. And that's what we're looking for Florida. We know the highs of Florida can bang with anybody in the country. And in fact, if this Florida Gators football team reaches their ceiling, I think they can compete for a national championship. I ain't even afraid to say it. I think that the big concern amongst Florida fans is, hey, how often do we get that version of Florida? Well, if you can run the football and play solid defense, all of a sudden your games on Saturdays become a little bit more consistent. And you don't find yourself in these dogfights maybe the way that Florida has in the past. As a Michigan fan, that was the thing I enjoyed the most about Michigan in 2023. There were a lot of days that you woke up on Saturday, you kind of knew how the game was going to go. And it went exactly like that. We go and run the football, dominate the time possession, play really dang good defense behind it, and it's 21-3 at half. And it's 28-7 or 28-10 final score. Can Florida find a little bit more consistency leaning on their run game, kind of smothering teams and dominating the time possession? That's another thing I've been thinking about because the buzz on this offensive line continues to be very, very strong. We'll close it out there. Again, I apologize. Not as an exciting episode to do, but we had to talk about it. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.